Larry Tomkins is Vice President of Sales and Marketing for the Southeast region at Ergon Asphalt and Emulsions. Larry is an active member of ISSA and a regular presenter at the ISSA annual workshop. He is an active member of the Emulsion Task Force, and he will discuss the pavement preservation treatments for asphalt roadways.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Larry Tomkins with Ergon Asphalt and Emulsions, and I wanted to talk to you guys today a little bit about asphalt pavement preservation treatments. I think John did a great job of kind of setting this up for both Larrys here to go and talk a little bit about the asphalt side, and then also next on the concrete side. With that, we're going to try to cover some treatments today. We only have about 25 minutes or so, so I'm going to try to go fairly quick. But if you do have questions, please type those in, and you can also get with me afterwards. I'm sure everybody has seen this definition before. I mean, pavement preservation, what are we trying to do? We're trying to keep things in good condition. We do this all the time with our houses, with our cars, with our health. We're just trying to maintain, try to keep everything in great condition. But a lot of times we fall short with that, especially on the roadways. And I'm sure everybody has seen that before. We really don't pay attention to a roadway until it really breaks down. And then everybody starts hollering and screaming. And so really this concerted effort to preserve our pavements are just so important to the quality of our life. Here are some of the treatments that we're going to briefly talk about today. I put 8 of them up here. I'll talk a little bit about rejuvenators, fog seals, crack seals, slurry seals, microsurfacing, ultra thin lifts, chip seals, scrub seals, and then we'll talk a little bit about combination treatments. We're going to go through this, and I really broke it down into 4 things for each of these treatments: the when, the what, the where, and the how. So hopefully we can cover these in the next 25 minutes. This is just kind of a picture. I'm sure everybody has seen this with the service life of pavement. I just kind of put on here kind of the different treatments that go along with the pavements, depending on what the quality or the condition of the pavement is. But really for us today, we're going to focus on the top of the curve treatments. But I think John made a good point, earlier, was, having a variety of treatments across this whole curve. You can see once you get into the blue, we start getting into maybe some rehabilitation, recycling, and then of course at the bottom you get into reconstruction. And really with these top of the curve treatments, we're trying to really maximize our dollar. We want to try to treat these pavements and get the most we can out of the life of this pavement. And so if we spend the money at the top of the curve, it'll definitely benefit us down the road. So with that, we'll start with the first one. What is Rejuvenator? So this was something that was discovered back in 1959, and really just to sum it up, very simple. It is replacing the maltines that is lost in asphalt. And so as you can imagine, as asphalt hot mix goes through the process of being mixed in a hot mix plant, being put down in the field, and then being exposed to the elements over time, that asphalt becomes very brittle. And so what we can do with Rejuvenators is actually spray that down on the pavement and actually revive it. Put some of those light ends back into the asphalt, and it actually works very well at extending the life of the pavement. One of the things that we forget about when Rejuvenators is a top of the curve treatment, and it needs to be done very soon. Where do we put these? Well, we put these on roads, like I said, very soon in the life of the pavement. It's an oxidized pavement. It doesn't have many cracks. It's fairly new pavement. And like I said earlier, it's amazing to me when we construct a roadway and 2 years flies like that. And the next thing you know, you're trying to remember when this pavement was put down, and it's 5 years ago, right? Well, that might be too far for a rejuvenator to work if it's starting to have cracks and potholes and all that kind of stuff. So we definitely want to treat this as early as possible. But here's a couple pictures of just some good candidates of where a rejuvenator would work. And then the life extension, what do we get out of this rejuvenator? Well, that could extend the road life anywhere from 4 to 5 years. I mean, this is a picture here of the left lane being treated with a rejuvenator, and then the right lane that hasn't been treated. And you can see the difference there of just the on the surface what it looks like. So anything we can do early to extend that pavement out is going to pay off big time down the road. So the next one is fog seal. So what is a fog seal? So all it is a light application of a low residue asphalt emulsion. It's usually something like a tack coat, CSS1H or CSS1 that's diluted 50-50. And then it's sprayed down. And really the purpose of that is to seal the road. I mean, we're trying to seal this off from water, from UV, all the elements out there in the environment. And we're trying to prevent raveling. So if you've ever seen a roadway like this in the bottom left corner, and I'm sure you have, this is what we're trying to prevent. If you see roadways like this, they're raveled, they're too far gone for a fog seal. But if we do that early in the life of a pavement, then we can prevent this from happening. Now, the one benefit, I guess, if you want to call it a benefit from a fog seal from the rejuvenator I just was talking about, that will give that appearance of a black surface. So, you know, this being a low residue asphalt emulsion, it will give the appearance of that black surface. The rejuvenator will still do the same as far as sealing, keeping the UV out. It just really dries clear for the most part there. Here are just some pictures of some other fog seal projects. The one on the left is a fog seal that we'll talk a little bit about later on with a chip seal. And then you can see on the right, it's fog seal on an OGFC on a interstate. And so, as I said earlier, that nice appearance, black, it makes the stripe, you know, really, really pop. When you do apply this. So it is a really effective treatment, but it's one, like I said earlier, that needs to be done early in the life of the pavement. And I think these two treatments here at the very top of the curve probably go overlooked a lot of time. There's some more wares, good site selection. We're just looking for oxidized pavements, something that maybe has started to ravel, not too much on the raveling side. So that we can prevent that from happening. And then I threw these in here. These come from roadresource.org. These are just some of the expectations you can look for in these treatments. With the fog seal, really it depends on what type of pavement you put this on. And when I say that, if you wait too long to put this treatment on, you can't expect to get the full life out of that treatment or to get that life extension that you might be looking for something that is an optimal roadway. And so you can see anywhere from 4 to 2 years, depending on where you're at, whether it's optimum or stopgap, kind of gives you a PCI range, and then the pavement condition. All right, so the next one up is crack seal. So what is it? I'm sure people have seen some of the crews out on the roadways maybe doing something like this, you know, blowing out cracks, putting these down behind a melter, and then, you know, using wands. And I'm sure you've seen these before. And really, it's a very effective treatment that a lot of our agencies do in-house. And I think that's probably one of the best things about crack sealing is it is something that the agency folks can do in-house. They can purchase a melter, go out and actually do this with their own crew, and it actually will save a lot of money. We do have a lot of agencies that contract this out, and there are a lot of contractors that we have within the ISSA association that do this work day in and day out and do a very, very good job. You can see multiple types of cracks here, longitudinal cracks. We got wide cracks over here with some mastic on the left. Just very, very effective treatment. And what we're trying to do here is seal these cracks off from the #1 enemy of the roadway, and that's water. We're trying to keep that water out of our base to save our roadway. You see some more pictures here. just wide cracks, narrow cracks. I mean, any type here, we're just going to try to seal those off. You know, we want to make sure these cracks are dry, that we blow those clean. If they need to be routed, please do so, and then get those properly sealed with the materials, depending on where you are in the country. And then here are some of the life extension benefits here for crack seal. You can see if it's optimal, it is a very effective treatment. I mean, when we're talking maybe cost, and I have a slide at the end that talks about cost, I mean, you know, less than $1 a square yard or $1 a foot to be able to get 6 to 7 years out of your pavement is a really, really good deal. So it's, once again, it's one of those things we need to treat these early so it doesn't get out of hand. The next one up is slurry and microsurfacing. And what is it? It's really the combination of these 5 materials. We have aggregate starting on the left and combining with cement, water, emulsion in the bottom right corner, and then a little bit of additive. And it's really put through a pug mill. It's out on the roadway. These raw materials are brought together, and it's placed straight on the roadway there. It looks great. It's a very effective pavement preservation treatment that's used in all types of environments, whether it's urban or rural. And you can see the appearance is really, really nice. Really, really good driving surface, and can restore friction out on your roadway. You know, where would we put that? We would put it on a, you know, same type of deal, you know, with oxidized roads, whether they might be a little raveled. Cracking, not so much. I mean, maybe some minor cracking. As with the same with rejuvenators or fog seals, it's really not a crack treatment. We can maybe get a little bit of benefit on those hairline cracks, but really it wasn't designed as a crack treatment. It's just more of a sacrificial layer. And you can see in these pictures, these are some of the good site selection candidates. The other thing that microsurfacing can do is stack stones because it has polymer in it. So one of the big differences between slurry and micro, if you hear the people use those two terms, micro has polymer in it. And so with that polymer, we can have the ability to stack stones, and it's very useful when we have a rutted roadway. As in this picture right here, I'm sure a lot of people have seen roadways like this. We can actually use microsurfacing to fill those ruts, and then we can resurface the roadway. There's a few things with the ruts that we want to make sure. Number one, we want to make sure it's not deeper problem than those ruts. If those ruts are still moving, we have an issue. We also want to know how deep those ruts are. That really depends on how we can approach it with this treatment, whether we need to use a rut box or we can use the full width of the machine I showed earlier. And here's some of the life extension benefits for slurry seal and microsurfacing. You can see anywhere from 7 to 10 for slurry on the optimal performance. Micro 8 to 10. You can see, you know, on the stopgap, we're really not recommending, you know, slurry be used as a stopgap measure. Micro, you can get away with it potentially as that stopgap, and then you can see on the average kind of where it falls there. One thing I'll say about the stopgap measure is, you know, I think John mentioned this earlier. You know, sometimes you might not have the optimal situation, and you're just trying to buy a few more years. We had that happen a few years ago in Alabama, where they were just trying to get 3 or 4 more years. We put down at that time, I think it was a combination treatment, and they only wanted 4 more years. That was it. It really wasn't the first treatment that was recommended, but anything to just get them another year, they were willing to do that. And it all comes back to expectations. I mean, what is your expectations for this treatment on this roadway? And as long as I'm not expecting it to perform miracles, and I understand that it's not the best site selection, then I'm okay. The times we get in trouble or we see trouble out with these treatments are when the expectations are really high, or that the site selection was just poor. It just wasn't the right roadway for that treatment. The next one up is ultra thin hot mix, thin lay, a little the picture here up close. Failed to mention Slurry micro is usually anywhere from 1/8 of an inch to 3/8 of an inch thick on the roadway. Usually ultra thin is a little bit thicker. It might be about 3/4 of an inch to an inch there. Great treatment as well. Same type of site selection as Slurry and micro really. It's not really, it's supposed to be a crack treatment, but it's very effective as being a sacrificial layer to oxidize pavements, ravel pavements. It's a very smooth ride, and it looks really, really good. Here's a life extension here for ultra thin. Same thing, 8 to 10 on the optimal side, and then it goes down from there if you're looking at a stopgap measure. Chip seal is the next one up. What is it? I'm sure if you've been out on the roadways, usually in the rural parts of states, you'll see chip seals for the most part. Once again, a treatment that can be done in-house or contracted out. But all it is, it takes 2 pieces of equipment to really get this done for the most part. You have a distributor that actually sprays emulsion on the roadway, or a hot apply binder on the roadway. And then you have a chip spreader that comes right behind it. This is a picture of it on the right, that places chips on top of that. And then at the end of the day, you have a chip seal roadway, and if it's done correctly, it's very effective at sealing minor cracks, not major cracks. Anything over 1/4 inch is what we're probably calling a major crack. Anything a 1/4 inch or below, this is very effective at sealing cracks and giving you a new roadway. So here, where would we put this? This is kind of a few of the site selections here. Minor cracking, like I said, 1/4 inch below. Loss of fines, raveling, flushing. If you have one that's maybe a loss of friction where it's gotten slick, you can use chip seal to restore that friction. And then, of course, oxidation as well. We've talked about that already. Here are just some of the life extension benefits for chip seal. Once again, we're still dealing with that 7 to 10 years here on the optimal performance, and anywhere down to 1 to 3 on that stopgap performance for a chip seal. Next one is scrub seal. So what is it? You might say, well, this looks just like the slide that you just showed me. Well, there's reason, and it is. It's usually you use the same 2 pieces of equipment to get started here. There's only one difference. We're actually going to add another piece in here, and it's going to be a broom sled. And this broom sled is actually going to be towed by the distributor on the left, and so it's going to be pulled. And as we're spraying emulsion down on the surface or on the roadway, this scrub broom is actually going to act like a scrub broom. It's going to scrub the emulsion into these cracks. And you can see in this picture that I have, you can see this wave of emulsion that is in the front of these on the front row of these broom heads. And you can see maybe a little bit of a wave in the back. And this is really what does it. It really takes this emulsion and moves it around the roadway and finds those cracks and puts that emulsion in those cracks. And so at the end of the day, it looks just like a chip seal. So, you wouldn't be able to tell whether this roadway was scrubbed or it was just chipped. But there's one big difference. When you actually look underneath the surface and you start looking at the cracks and the importance of why you're adding this broom sled onto this treatment, this is the proof in the pudding. And so when you take a core and you actually split that core open, you see the effects of that broom sled, and you see how it can push that emulsion down in those cracks to seal them. You won't get this type of effect with just a regular chip seal operation. It'll usually just kind of bridge over that crack for the most part. But with a scrub seal, we can handle bigger cracks, more of them. And a lot of times we call it a mass crack sealer, and it is very, very effective at sealing cracks on the roadway. Here are some of the site selection candidates for a scrub seal. You can see these are roads that are really cracked up. The bases still need to be sound. We're not talking about base failures, being able to do that, or big potholes or anything like that. But it definitely is a roadway that probably is too far gone for a chip seal. And maybe the last thing you can do to it is mill it and overlay it. So this is a really effective treatment that fills that niche in between a chip seal and a mill and fill. And then you can see the life extension here, same thing, 7 to 10, and then all the way down to 1 to 3, depending on your site or your roadway. And then the combination treatments, what are they? Well, it's very simple. It's just taking 2 treatments and combining them together, right? And so you see this a lot. Crack seal is combined with chip seal. So like I said earlier, chip seal, if those cracks are greater than a 1/4 inch, we could, crack seal those first and then come back and chip seal the roadway. It's also crack seal used with slurry and micro. Because as we said earlier, micro and slurry and really ultra thin are not really designed to be crack treatments. So if we do have cracks, we can treat those with crack seal first and then place a sacrificial layer on top of that. I mentioned this earlier about the chip and the fog. Fog seal is chip seal's best friend. And you can see the lane on the left is what it would look like before you fog sealed. And then afterwards, you get a really, really nice appearance. That striping pops. You've locked down and maybe any loose rock out there. So chip seals and fog seals go really, really well together. And then we have some inner layers where basically chip seal might be used as an inner layer or even a scrub. And then you're placing, an inch and a half of hot mix on top. That. And then we also have the cape seals, what we call a chip seal, and then we put a micro on top or a slurry on top. You can see the difference on an appearance there. Very, very effective treatment. And this would be a finished picture of a cape seal. Here are just some life extension, once again, anywhere from that 8 to 10 years, all the way down to 4 to 6, but really great treatment to extend the life of your pavement. So how much does it cost? So I just kind of listed, this comes from roadresource.org. I just listed a few of these of what it would cost. You can see from the fog and crack being up there under $1 a square foot. And I believe the Rejuvenators would be the same. They're not on this list, but the Rejuvenators would be the same. And then you can work your way down and kind of see where those costs per square yard are. When you really break that down into the life extension, into the equivalent annual cost, all of these treatments are very, very effective. And it's something that you can do or put in your toolbox to extend your dollar and to keep your network in really, really good shape. I think, John had said earlier, not that you have to use all these treatments at once, but if you can find a couple just to throw in your toolbox and get started, it would really, really would help you a lot. I know a lot of agencies will start maybe with something as simple as crack seal. They feel like their guys can do that in-house and it's something we can do in the off season or whatever. And just if it's crack seal, that's just a start. I mean, that's great. If you can mix in a few more there, ultimately it will do your network really, really good. And then I think John also brought up a good point about training and about specs, QA/QC, which are all great points. The specs are great. Making sure site selection is great, the design great. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure we have a good construction spec. We need to make sure we have trained contractors. We need to make sure our inspectors are trained and a good QA/QC program. And so how do I build that spec? Well, there are a couple ways. I mean, one, you could go to the TSP2 site for the Emulsion Task Force. There's some great checklists out there. There's some specification guides that will help you get started. There's also a reference to many times in the presentation, roadresource.org. Both of these sites are really good, and I would encourage you to go to there to check out things for specifications. Also on training, these four here will definitely train you up between the International Slurry Surfacing Association, ISSA, the National Center, the Emulsion Task Force, and NAPA. All have great resources to get you trained up on best practices for construction and then QA/QC. And with that, I think I finished right at 25 minutes. So I appreciate y'all's time today. Here's my contact info. And once again, I want to thank Judy and her staff for letting me come on and present today. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Thank you.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.